welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community, because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. Doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality, you can create an amazing life in sales. And today's guest, no stranger to the journey, very excited to welcome Dr. Christiane. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me here. I'm super thrilled to be here and, of course, sharing some of my sales insights with you.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I want to jump right in. I want to hear a crazy sales story. I'm sure with your experience, you've got at least one or two.
Yeah, I've actually just calculated yesterday. I had about 10,000 students so far that took my sales classes. And I want to really remember the one sales stories where one of them created a prototype of the product and they were getting ready to sample it with an audience of their ideal clients. And they had all the samples prepped, had them in the refrigerator in the back of the car, got out of the car, and you know where this is going, left the key in the car, right? So everybody was waiting in the house, getting ready. They're all hyped up to try this fantastic prototype. It's actually a protein shake, right? And the cooler with the samples is in the car. And I point out this because quite honestly, to me, it sounds like there's like this big day. You're totally hyping it up. That's like when you're really putting product and client together, prototyping something, really going back and doing your best sales pitches with them. And this totally could happen.
I mean, I forget what the Malcolm's something, but it's like the worst thing that can happen will probably happen. And as much as we try to prepare for it, you just never know what the universe is going to throw your way. And so
Yeah.
I would imagine, 10,000 students, that's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
What have been some of the biggest things that you've noticed for people who want to get into sales? Like, what are some of the common things that drive someone to decide sales is the place for me?
I think that most of the time people tell me I really like interacting with others and I really enjoy the contact, even though, we talk a lot via Zoom and we do a lot of sales pitching now with elevator pitches that are recorded. So we don't actually know what their reaction really is when we send out that elevator pitch. But still, the personal contact is the number one reason when people get into sales. And that's really what I train everybody that works with me to do, the one-on-one client interaction, really seeing, I call it the pupils dilate in that sales call when they get really excited about what you are sharing with them.
I love that. And one of the things that's always been super interesting to me is when you get into sales, you're learning as much as you can and you're absorbing all of this knowledge, and it can kind of seem like drinking from a fire hose sometimes. And as we progress through the years and we start learning in a way that allows us to then go back and teach the next person how to do the same position, the shift is so interesting when you see someone going through that. Now, there's the caveat that some people can be great at sales but not be great at teaching others how to sell. What do you think differentiates those two?
I think that sometimes people have a little bit of a competitive mindset. Even though if you look at the origin of the word competition, competare, like the Latin word, actually means we thrive together. And sometimes people look at it more in competition as like me, and I'm going to get more sales leads than what you do, and I'm going to get more interactions than what you do. Where in reality, the more you help others and the more you think of the sales as being a team approach, the more you are actually going to perfect your own game. Because when you explain somebody else how to do a cold call or do an elevator pitch, you're getting better at it because you kind of formulate it in your mind. And educating somebody else will actually make you better because you are the teacher, becomes the role model, right? And I think that sometimes people, they have a little bit of that competitive mindset where they think that the resources are limited And there's really only so much space for salespeople. When in reality, really, there's plenty of resources for everybody to go around. And I think that really what differentiates a good teacher versus somebody that is more focused on themselves.
I know, I absolutely love that. And what I think people need in that journey is someone to challenge them. So for me personally, when I was learning, I had someone who became a mentor of mine that reached out at one point because I was asking questions, and he's like, "Listen, you're asking great questions. I'm going to help you. But in exchange, I need you to then go and help the other people who are asking these similar questions because I just don't have the time. But I'll pour into you if you're willing to help the next person." And I remember thinking to myself, like, why would I tell everybody else the secret sauce? Like, I want to know all the secret sauce. Why would I tell everyone else? And I remember he said something like, "Listen, man, everything I'm going to teach you, you could learn on YouTube. But
Exactly.
do you want to take the time to go to YouTube, or do you want to get it direct from me and go help others with it?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I don't want to waste that time. So like send me the good." And it was this huge shift for me. And I would be curious for you, did you have someone in your life that challenged you, which is maybe what led you into teaching and things you do now?
For sure. And I actually call it the hero's journey, right? A
Mhm.
very common
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
marketing term. We all feel like, oh yeah, we want to succeed and we want to get to, a little success story, even though our path might not be linear at all. But if you really think about it, there's always the guide somewhere, the guide that leads you along your journey. And I mean, I always bring up the Star Wars story with my students, right? To where we look at the hero and we want them to succeed so badly, but the hero always has a guide. And of course,
Mhm.
when I was doing my PhD, you have your PhD mentors and you have people that help you with your dissertation, and you may line up with some more or you might not line up with some less, but at the same time it's so important in business to pick out a coach, a mentor, a guide, so that you can feel like that hero, that you can really celebrate successes. And this is my number one advice to everybody that works with me: you actually have to share those wins with your mentor, whether that's leaving them a testimonial, whether that's sharing a quick email. I always reach back out to my mentors at the end of the week, or if I don't get the chance, maybe at the end of the month, and I say, quick wins this week that happened. Because they're putting that time in, but they also want to know how you're doing. And it's really like 10 seconds that it takes to voice record something and put it in an email and share it with them, because then you really actually close the loop of, okay, I'm
Mhm.
giving back and I'm letting you know this is really amazing what you're doing. And I so appreciate the time you put into this.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that, first of all. I think messages of gratitude, I mean, to mentors, to friends, to anyone in your life that has brought value, I'm a big believer in those things. And that's one of I try to make it one of my daily habits. I'm not perfect, but every day I try to send at least a couple of messages like that. Hey, I appreciate that you shared this or you said this thing that has brought value to my life. And what I really love about it is that you can learn from just about anyone. Just because someone may not make as much money as you do doesn't mean that they haven't had more success in a different area. And what I saw and I'm curious about is you have something, what is it? The Petite Practice Framework, something like that. I would love to
Yeah.
know more about that. Tell us about
Yeah, so my petite practice framework, you can hear from my accent. So I'm from Europe,
it.
love
Yeah.
French culture.
Okay.
Love French culture, anything that's like, the French just have this kind of more, I want to live and enjoy life attitude that I appreciate. But at the same time, I live in California. So I
Okay.
obviously chose the US very ambitious oriented lifestyle. And that's my coaching, really. I'm like structured, but at the same time, I'm also ambitious. And so the petite
Mhm.
practice allows you to taking small steps, so petite, towards reaching your goal. And like, for instance, nobody sends out like a 10-page PDF anymore with a sales pitch. What you do is an elevator pitch, whether that's 60 or 90 seconds. It's essential that you think of this as like a petite practice. You are putting out something that's small that somebody can maybe watch on their phone while they're maybe going from one meeting to the next meeting. But at the same time, it's still selling, selling, selling. And it doesn't always have to be a hard sell. It could be a soft sell that you may be sharing with somebody. Oh, I have this thing coming up. And yeah, let me know if you're curious about it. And of course, they're going to be curious about it if you say it this way. But at the same time, the petite practice is more like weaving in little business moments into your life without feeling you're always on. It's more really making it gentler and much more digestible and making you more authentic than feeling like you're like, this on and off mode, because you're more doing in little spurts.
I love that. I have something, I call it the 4 6s framework. So for me, I look at time as the only resource that we cannot get more of. Like, we're very limited on it. We don't know how much we're going to get. It's everyone gets, we wake up, this is what we have. And so when I think about it, it's how are you structuring your day to have those little moments where you're able to maximize and say, hey, I've invested some time, energy, and effort into this thing with intention and purpose. Because it's those little things that you make the intention and purpose of. Hey, it's that one little step. It's that, hey, I made one extra phone call, or I created one extra piece of content today, and it got me that much closer to the goal. And with 10,000 students or more under your belt, what are some of those little petite steps that people can take that they can go and learn right now? Like, if the listener's hearing this and they're going, I like this. This is my speed. What can they go and do? What are those little steps?
The number one differentiating factor is reading books. Hands down, hands down. Because my question always is, when I work with clients, when I work with books, when I work with students, I said, what was the last book that you read? And sometimes like, oh man, that's been a while. And then I'm like, so you want to sell something and be knowledgeable and educated and come across as somebody that actually knows their stuff. And at the same time, you're really not educating yourself. And you don't have to read the latest business literature, but just read something by all means, right? And it's so easy to read these days. You can listen to podcasts, like this amazing podcast, listen to it. You learn so much, right? Or you can read newsletters. I would strongly suggest not reading social media. That gets really political, but maybe read books in an audio format, right? So maybe while you drive, you listen to a book, and you can even speed up this recording. That's my number one suggestion, hands down. I would say the people where when I talk to, I really feel like there's wheels spinning in their brain, so to speak, when they read. Number one, yes.
I love that. And if I understand correctly, you've written one, or is it 2 books now?
Wrote already 3 books by now. I know.
Awesome. Okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
if you guys are listening, you're going to have to go check out. Are they all on Amazon? Is that where we can find them?
Yeah, they're on Amazon, and they're actually really incorporating that structure that I talked about. They have audio pieces from my podcast in there. They have worksheets in there. They even have space for creativity, gratitude pages. So they are super interactive, because we don't have time to just sit there and read like a 200-page book. So they are allowing you just a little step at a time to go through that. And they're super applicable. I have like sales funnels in there. I mean, the whole shebang.
One of the things that and thank you for sharing that, because I appreciate other leaders who are willing to just say, yeah, here's everything that's worked for me. Like, it's somebody at some point gave me something and I learned from it. And so I'm going to share it with you. And a book is such a great place to share that sort of knowledge. And when I work with my clients, a lot of times, depending on where they are in their journey, because not everyone's at a point where writing a book makes sense, but writing a book it's like the ultimate business card. You don't go to Vistaprint and order 5,000 books. You go to Vistaprint and order 5,000 cards, and people throw them away. But when you share a book with someone, I mean, that has substance. Because to take the time to sit down and to pour that much energy and effort into something, I believe it's truly a blessing for the universe. Whether they know it or not, like, someone is going to find your book and they're going to read it and they're going to take one thing from it, and it's going to change their entire life. And so with when you started creating these books, was it with the purpose of like, hey, I just want to share all this now? Like what made you decide to start writing the books?
Oh, it's a great question. There was a pivotal moment, of course, with that too. When I teach marketing or I teach sales or I teach innovation entrepreneurship, as a professor, you kind of feel like, well, I have to have like something. And then you look and that the textbooks are very dry. Let's just use that word, right? They're very boring. So when I earned my PhD and I was assigned to read 30, 40, 50 pages, I didn't like that. Right. I mean, I sat there and I was like, did I actually understand what was on this page? And then, it was like so, like the case studies were so dated. And then you had to buy the new edition to get the new case studies. And it was just like, oh gosh. So I always felt like it was actually more draining than it was elevating me. It was total time suck, to speak of that. So I always looked back and like, I want to share with the students. I was a student myself as well, and I didn't enjoy this very much at all. So when I create a textbook, it's going to be short, it's going to be fun, it's going to be applicable. And that's exactly what I created. So it's one page worksheets. There are barcodes that you can scan that go to audio and video recordings of some of my best entrepreneurs and what they do now. And then, of course, this was the latest suggestion from some of my students. They were like, oh, you have to put Zentangles in there. And I was like, first I have to Google, like, what is a Zentangle? Oh, it's like a little coloring page. And I was like, cool. So the main thing when I wrote a book was I have to talk to my audience, right?
Mm.
I have to actually interact with clients. I can't just like sit somewhere in a cubby and write my thing and then hope that people buy it, which is like, of course, in marketing, the worst thing you can do. So when I wrote the book, very much shared the journey with everybody that works with me. I said, all right, so I'm kind of thinking I'm going to put the sales funnel together like that. And then on the next page, you would create your own sales funnel. How would that work? And then I say, oh, you know what? I'm going to word search too. So where you explain me top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, put some of those keywords in there. I would love that in the word search. And I was like, all right, we're going to put a word search in there. And so this is really how I wrote the book. I was basically constantly suggesting, getting their feedback, adjusting, and then it really landed and it was successful because they all felt there was a little bit of them in the book. And it also meant something to them that their specific needs were actually met. That it was something that when they want doodling pages, they're not just doodling down the side margin of a book, but they have a whole Zentangle or a coloring page where they can do this. And I think that's good because we're all different learners. And we can just expect that you throw out something and it works for everybody because it doesn't, right? So you need to think a little bit of like, how can I meet you where you are right now with my resource? And how can I elevate you to become the best entrepreneur in the whatever food truck space or whatever you're doing? And that was really my goal.
Well, Dr. Christiane, you just teed me up perfectly because everything you said lines up directly with where I'm going in that sales is the same way. Not every prospect is going to be sold or buy the same way. You have to understand these different processes and these different ways of explaining things and helping people go through. Are they more visual? Are they more auditory? Like you said, do they need to read it? Do they need to hear it? Is it something where it's more of a feelings type of situation? You have to be able to walk people down this path in sales. And what I think is so interesting and how it connects to the book is you're just creating your sales process. You're
Mhm.
creating your script. And what's cool is that for people, when I help them bring this together and see that, hey, the thing that you're doing every single day, the conversation that you're having over and over and over, if you just do that on voice one time, you can create a transcription, and then you can take that transcription and create a playbook and some SOPs and some processes, and now it's scalable because it doesn't have to be you saying it every time. It's right there in front of you. And for those of you who are listening, if you've tossed around the idea of, well, I don't know, I'd like to write a book, but I'm not sure how. It's 2025. It's way easier than it's ever been, and you've already written most of it through the content that you've created, the videos, the webinars you've done, the sales trainings you've put on in your own business. Like, Everything is there. You just have to organize it and put it together. And that's where having a good mentor, having someone who's walked down that path can be very helpful for you. And so, Dr. Christiane, on your journey, you mentioned you've had some mentors, you've been a mentor to a lot of people. What are some of the things that you think individuals fight through when they're trying to decide that they are capable of becoming a leader or a mentor or a teacher, especially in the sales space?
Oh yeah, and I love that you just bring this up because you did such a beautiful job in explaining that most of us are probably ready to write a book. But then when I talk to them and they have all this material that they wrote and it's just like drawers full of stuff, it's really taking that next step and actually making it visible that most of the time people are afraid of. It's like, well, but then it would be out in the masses and I'm not sure I'm ready for that. And then I always tell people that someday might never come because like oh yeah, someday I'm going to publish it. It's like right. And usually what I do is I'm a firm believer in numbers. It really works for me. I mean, I'm also
Mm-hmm.
a business oriented person, but I'm just like, all right, let's take a calendar. On this calendar, is there any date that means something to you? And we're going to pick that out, and then we're going to reverse engineer back to today. And that date will be when you hit publish on your book, right? So that really worked for me. The mentors that helped me write my dissertation, my number one mentor actually left the university and went to a different university. So I knew that the date that he was leaving, I had to finish up. And so I bought my parents' plane ticket from Germany. And I said, "You're going to be here for my graduation." They were like, "Oh, are you actually done?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to be done."
Don't have a
I
choice.
mean, I'm going to be done, right? And so my professor is leaving. I have to graduate because I don't want to write this thing by myself. And so they said, all right. I mean, now we're committing a lot of money coming from Germany to your graduation. But at the same time, I think that's what helps to have that pressure, to have that deadline. And I remember when I was writing my literature review, which I love writing literature reviews because it just pulls like your white space in, like, how do I fit in? How do I contribute to this?
Mm.
And I remember writing it and thinking, there's so much research out there. And then your mentor basically tells you, and you know what? And you just have to move on. You have to go now and you have to leave the research and the literature review behind. And we're moving on to the next chapter because otherwise you'll be this old white lady sitting in the corner in the library, still writing her literature review. And we're not doing that. And I was like, okay, moving on. So you could do a lot of things forever. But you know what? You just have to like progress over perfection. You just have to move on. And so that was great when my mentor said, all right, I'm leaving on this date. If you want to work with me in person, I'm going to be here until then. If not, you have to figure this out yourself. Tough love.
Sometimes a little tough love is important, and to
Mhm.
me, I think the same thing happens when you're training a new salesperson on your team. They
Yep.
can only read the script so many times before they're just gonna have to go out and fumble. Like, you're gonna get on the calls and you're gonna have to sound silly and make mistakes and say something that makes someone say things back to you that you're like, I would never say that to my worst enemy. How could they say that to me on the phone right now? And you're going to get in your feels. But I love that it's a numbers thing. Again, I'm kind of a number. I like both, right? I like the numbers, but I like the vibe. I want to feel it too. But it's 110 too. If you're making 100 calls a day and you're just trying, I promise you're going to get better just by chance. That it's
Mhm.
impossible not to get better if you just keep trying. And Dr. Christian, I'm sure we could sit here and nerd out like all day on this and have like all kinds of fun conversations. But I want to be respectful of your time. What is the best way for us to come and find you, check out more about your books? I think you have a podcast as well. Tell the audience how we
Mhm.
can come check out more of your content.
Check out my website, drchristiane.com. My podcast is called Happy Healthy Hustle because that's really what we have to do. We have to keep hustling, but staying happy and healthy is the number one goal along the way. And of course, my book's on Amazon, How to Master Your Goals, Discover Your Superpower, which I know you're a firm believer as well, and then the Petite Practice Planner.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely make sure all those links go down into the show notes so everyone has an easy chance to find them. Before we get out of here, though, I always like to ask this one question because I think sales is so interesting in that there are new people joining the sales industry every single day. It is a career where you literally can come from anywhere, any background, any personality, and you can be successful. So let's just say that we're super blessed and lucky that someone who has just found their way into sales, they're Googling and they land on this podcast, or maybe a friend sends them this episode. What's one piece of advice you'd give that new individual to be successful in sales?
My number one piece of advice will be network at all time. Build connection, take notes after you meet somebody, write down little things about that person, how to pronounce their name, what was special about them, because you cannot underappreciate how people will really resonate with that you put the time in, that you remember little things when the next time when you meet them, that you ask them about these little bits of information that they shared with you. That is so important, because then every sales call will build on each other and you're not constantly starting from number one, right? So you're essentially following up and you're building the connection, because at the end of the game, this is a relationship and you are building a relationship from day one. So my number one advice is always, you need to honor the relationship, the time that somebody shares with you. And as I say, take your notes app out, write down little things. And then when you call again, look at your notes app, look at what you wrote down about that person and ask them, put that relationship really like, kind of like warm it up a little bit. That's my number one advice.
Well, Dr. Christiane, I would say it is the petite practice there, the little things that make all of the difference. So thank you so much for your time today. It has been an honor getting to learn from you, get some of your wisdom. I know I'm personally excited to come check out your podcast and listen to some of the amazing stuff that you have on there. Again, it is awesome to work with professionals who care about the community, and I can tell that you truly care about yours. So thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, and to finish my story with the students about the prototype and the samples in the car, they had to actually kind of unlock their own car the old-fashioned way, use a clothing hanger, pull up like
A little ingenuity, right?
But at the end of the day, I think that's what sales is all about. Like sometimes you just have to make things work, and they unlocked that car, they got the samples out, it all ended up. But I think that story, even though they laugh about it now, created like a little extra stress to them in that moment. And at the end of the day, though, I tell them, you're always selling stories. So maybe you can keep that story in mind as you're pitching yourself. When I created my first prototype, that would just be so neat. But I just wanted to share with you, it all ended up being good. They shared the prototype and they are producing it now. And it was a happy ending to the stress.
Well, and you just provided one additional little gem. So if you're still here listening to this, I'm going to take back to a second when she mentioned something earlier about closing the loop. And one of the things that the unconscious mind hates is open loops. It's stories that we haven't finished. It's things that we haven't solved, problems that we haven't figured out. And Dr. Christiane just showed a great way on how you can open the loop early on, get someone interested, and then once you've got them bought in, you can close that loop and help them make the next decision to take action, which would be whatever your product, your service. And for me, it's going to be going to check out more of her amazing content, because this has been a masterclass in sales, marketing, and communication. So Dr. Christiane, thank you again. If you're here listening, send this to a friend, share it on social media, tag us, send it to somebody who's terrible at sales if necessary. Like maybe they need some help. Don't tell them they're terrible, but send it like you're your friend, but send it anyways. And then if you have your own story and you want to share some of it, we'd love to bring you on the show. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your details. Let's get you in here. You know what to do. Go call the damn leads. We'll see you on the next one. Take care, y'all.
Thanks.